I'm Amy from Doodle Dog Designs. I have this old chenille blanket bedspread that's got some rips in it and it's not good for a bedspread anymore. So I'm going to use it for the weft in a rug. I'm going to do 2 rugs and the second rug will be out of this white chenille. I have an assortment of white chenille. Some of them are the fluffier chenille and some is the more bumpy kind, and I'm going to alternate between the different kinds of chenille. I'm going to use this 8/4 cotton for my warp. Now, I like to put these little tags on because the stickies that come on them sometimes don't even have all the information I'd like them to have, and they tend to come off. I make a little tag with all of the information and then attach it with a safety pin, and then I can take the safety pin off when I'm using it, and then I can just pin it right back on after I'm finished. Now this bedspread is old enough that it's probably been washed and dried, but I'm sure I've washed it, but I don't remember if I hung it up to dry or if I put it in the dryer. So I want to make sure it's shrunk, pre-shrunk, so I'm going to put it in and wash it and dry it. And I'm going to make the strips somewhere between 1/2 inch and 5/8. So 1/2 inch on this bumpy one is about every 2. So I'm going to have about 2 rows of the bumps on each of the strips. I'm probably just going to cut this with scissors. I think it's easy to do since I have the bumps there to guide me. It's something I can do when I'm sitting down of an evening. Cutting these is a very messy project. I ended up with little white fuzz all over everywhere. But I have quite a bit of each style of blanket cut. I have some that are the more fuzzy and some that are the more bumpies. So I'm going to sew them together. I've mixed them up together and I'm going to randomly put them together. I don't want to be stripes, I just want to be random. So I'm going to take the 2 right sides together and put them together at a 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to sew along here to sew the 2 pieces together. Did I mention this is messy? This is definitely not a project to embark upon if you just vacuumed or are about to have company come over. Then I can trim off this excess here. I'm just going to go ahead and start wrapping it onto my shuttle as I sew rather than winding it on into a ball. I'm going to use 12 ends per inch, and I want to weave 22 inches in width. That is 264 ends, but I'm going to add 2 extra because I want to put 2 ends in each of the sides. I'm going to have 2 strings coming through the petals and through the reed instead of 1 on each side. I'm fairly new at weaving rugs, but I did read that adding that extra end on each side can help make the edges of the rug stronger. I want to weave about 30 inches for each rug, and I'm doing 2 rugs, so that's 60 inches. I'm allowing a 20% take up, that's 12 inches, and 12 inches for the fringe between the 2 rugs, and 22 inches of loom waist. So that's a total of 106 inches for my warp length. Now both ends I did thread 2 strings through the last heddle and then also through this last dent on the reed. I have my petals tied up. I have the 1 and 2 tied up on the left side and 3 and 4 together on the right side. So when I have my shuttle on the right side, I lift up this right and push it back to the left And then when I have it on the left side, I lift up this to push it back to the right. So I'm beading it with the shed open, and then I'm beading it again with the shed closed. Try to make sure it gets good and tight in there. I was going to just weave 30 inches, and then I still had some of my fabric cut and sewn together, so I went ahead and used up the rest of it. So I ended up at 33.5 inches, and then I added my end here, and I still have quite a bit of extra. I'm still learning how much waste this particular loom requires, and I ended up with a little too much. So I think if I did it again, I would probably cut off about 8 inches off the length of my warp. So now I'm going to cut it off, and I want to make sure that I leave long enough pieces so that I can tie it. So I'm going to cut it off up here. So I'm taking 4 of the strings at a time, and I'm doing an overhand knot to tie the strings. The rugs have been washed and dried now, and I think they turned out pretty good. I like the variation in color in this one, and that just came from how some of the parts of the bedspread were really worn and really thin and light colored, and other parts were not as worn. I just randomly picked them when I was sewing them together, randomly picked the lighter and the darker. And then in this one, you can really see some of the really fluffy parts of the bedspread intermixed with the rest of the bedspread. Gives it a nice, interesting, bumpy texture. After being washed and dried, the white one measures 20 inches wide and 28.5 inches long. And the pink one measures 19 inches wide by 26 inches long. It is shorter, but I only wove 30 inches in length when I did the pink one, and I did weave the white one longer. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe below. I'll see you next time. Bye.